The 2015 Mad Max game, on top of being absolutely brilliant, features a lot of driving and some of the most wonderful vehicle combat I've ever come across. But today, I won't be enjoying that driving and vehicle combat. Today, I will be suffering, because today I ask the question, can you beat Mad Max in reverse? Mr. Scabrous Scrotus, the big boss of Gast Town, has decided to steal my car, and that's a no-go, so I put a saw in his head, got kicked off his wall rig down into the sand, and started wandering around the desert with a dog that has a hole in it. When that cutscene ended and I got control of Max, I went straight into the key map settings and got rid of my vehicle acceleration button. I also unbound the walking forward button as well as a little bonus challenge and started awkwardly walking forward without being able to see where I'm going. Once I figured out walking in a vaguely straight line, I came across Cumbucket, and he has a car, and he thinks I'm some kind of messiah of the wasteland, that he will serve faithfully to his dying breath. So that will definitely be very useful in our mission to get a beautiful car built up and drive out, in reverse of course, to the Plains of Silence to find inner peace from the wasteland. I need to go find some wire to fix Chum's buggy first though, and to do that, I'm going to have to do some combat, which felt a little bit strange and awkward because of my whole not moving forward thing, but I did start to get the hang of it, and that means that I can kill all of these disgusting roadkill assholes and take that piece of wire. And with the wire in my hands, I went back to Chum and started up his buggy. There's quite a big problem I have to deal with now though. The buggy starts facing forwards, and I can't go forwards. And only being able to go backwards means that a 2 or 3 point turn is impossible. And I got seriously scared that the run was dead here and now because there's just not enough room for me to maneuver my way out of this situation. I did manage to come up with a solution though. I can just punch the car over and over again, pushing it the tiniest bit with each punch for 11 absolutely mind-numbing minutes until I have enough room to reverse the car and get out of there. Then I went to scout a nearby camp that Scrotus's minions took my car to. I'm not ready to deal with that yet though, so I went ahead and got my car stuck again, repeated the whole punching it over and over thing again, and headed over to Chum's Goon Cave, where I gazed upon the glory of his magnum opus. Doesn't look like too much now, but we have a solution for that. I've just got to go over to a buzzard camp and steal a car body from them. But on my way into the buzzard camp, I kept bumping into the side of the road, and I can't back myself out of that, so I just jumped off a cliff to reset and tried again, and again, and again. But I did eventually manage to not screw it up and got to the camp, where I selected the die roller body for my car, then I beat up a bunch of nasty little buzzards into a lumpy and meaty paste, and decided that now is probably a good time to get the hell out of here. It was not easy to get the car turned around to get out of here, because unlike in previous cases, I can't exit the car to punch it into facing the right way, which also means every time it gets stuck while I'm trying to get out of here, I have to quit to the main menu and then resume the game to reset its position. I did manage to wriggle my way out of facing backwards eventually and started driving out of there, which wasn't too hard. It's meant to be like a chase sequence, but reversing is pretty slow, so that the intensity of the chase wasn't really there. When the chase finished, I returned to Mr. Bucket's masturbatorium and started working on the car. For starters, we need a harpoon gun to harpoon people with, and the game also made me put a ramming grill on the car, but that doesn't really do anything for me because it's on the wrong end for our purposes. And now it is time to head over to the Scrotus camp I scouted earlier and look for my beloved black on black. Getting into the camp was not easy. For starters, getting in a position where I can pull the gate down while not facing it was pretty tricky. And also, I had to get rid of this sniper guy, and he managed to get rid of me before I got rid of him. I did manage to figure it all out after a while and then entered the camp. The combat in the camp wasn't anything too crazy. It's definitely harder to fight when I can only move in 3 directions instead of 4, but it's still very much doable. After some fighting, I came across a harrowing little conundrum. Ladders. I need to use the W key, or the numpad 5 key, in my case, to move up on the ladders. But, I mean, even though it's using the forward key, it's not really walking forward, is it? Or even moving forward. It's climbing up. So, because it's up, not forward, I don't consider it to be a failure. But if you disagree with me, then let me know in the comments in the harshest words that you can possibly muster. Outside of that, the camp went well. I met a new friend named Griffer even, and he's the best. Just a weird little guy lurking around and getting up to all sorts of mischief. I couldn't find the black on black though. My car's gone, but that's fine, because clearing this camp has unlocked a very useful upgrade for the Magnum Opus. I can now tell Chum to drive the car to me, so when it gets stuck, I can just run away, fire a flare up in the air with my new flare gun, and have the car come to me instead of having to just punch it over and over to get out of sticky situations. Then I had another chat with Griffer, which is very convenient because I have some Griffer tokens to exchange with him, which I can use to level up Max. And once that was done, I unlocked something brilliant, even better than the flare gun. I now have a nitro boost on the Magnum Opus. And while I still can't put my foot down on the pedal to go forwards, I can now boost a small distance forwards, which doesn't really help speed me up at all, but is endlessly useful when it comes to backing myself out of corners. So there will be very few times in this playthrough going forward that I'll have to resort to punching the car again. When I returned to the dark, damp and delicious confines of his lair, Chumbucket let me know that to get a V8 engine, which is a must-have for the Plains of Silence, I will need to win the Gast Town races, over at the other end of the map. And I mean, racing while in reverse, which is slower, that's not going to be easy. But we've got some time before we have to worry about that. And then, this ridiculous stank gum guy realized that I'm growing too powerful with my nitro boost and flare gun, and set this beautiful home of ours alight, releasing an absolutely foul odor and forcing me to venture out into Jeet's territory to continue this holy mission. The first thing to do here has got to be talking to Jeet, and he says that to get to Gast Town, I need to go through the jaw. But I should probably go have a look at said jaw first, so I drove over to a good vantage point, gave all of its current residents a violent eviction notice, and took a look at the jaw. And it's a big gate, a really big gate even. So I might have some more work to do before I can take it on. Chum wants to build the car into a design called the Jack. And to do that, first I'm going to need to lower the Scrotus threat level in Jeet's territory, which was pretty easy. I've already been taking out some scarecrows and snipers while I drive around, so I just had to quickly deal with one camp, which was as easy as beating everyone in it up and blowing up their oil pumps, which, for the record, that's a pretty easy thing to do. And that unlocks the exhaust I need. Next, I went over to some random scavenging location to find the car body that I need for the Jack, and after that, all I've got to do is collect 300 scrap to finish the build. And I'm most of the way there already, so I just went and looted a couple more scavenging locations to get up to the total, and then built myself this ugly piece of shit no good car. And that's all I can achieve in Jeet's territory for now, so I started driving over to Gutgash next, because I need a thunderpoon to get myself through the jaw. And good old Gutgash is obviously the man to talk to about thunderpoons. At Gutgash's house, I met the wasteland concubine Hope, the third hottest character in the entire Mad Max game, and gave her a little fan to help her break out of the cage that she's been put in. Before I can continue the main quest though, I need to dismantle a camp in Gutgash's territory. So I went straight over to the Gobstone camp and started working on taking it out. It was all just pretty standard combat. I could go more in depth with what I get up to in camps throughout this playthrough, but if I did that for every camp I go to, this video would be at least 90 minutes long and wouldn't be coming out until February 2025. So I'm going to be keeping it brief. Anyway, I finished busting the camp, then headed back to Gutgash. Mr. Gash tells me that I need a little doohickey called the Talon that I can find with a convoy run by a gentleman named Dimrim. And taking the Talon from Dimrim is not going to be easy. I went over and tried to explode the convoy straight away, but a little fun fact about driving in reverse you may not have heard about, it's slow. Very slow. and I honestly don't know how I can keep up with the convoy long enough to blow up the main vehicle and take the Talon. So I'm going to look at upgrading my car first, because with any luck, that should make this whole situation easier. The main upgrade I'm looking for is an exhaust upgrade, which should raise my top speed. But to get it, I need to lower the gut gash threat level a bit and collect 600 scrap. I did a lot while trying to achieve these goals, lots of scavenging locations to get my scrap up, and a few camps for the threat level. I even took out a boss camp, which on top of letting me say that I defeated a man named Rimjobby, also means that I can give my car a fresh coat of paint, which is just a nice thing to have. When I got back to trying to bust the convoy, I still wasn't fast enough to keep up, but I managed to come up with a strategy that would have worked the whole time anyway. I can't just turn around and follow the convoy tracks in the other direction when it gets away from me to catch back up, because if it gets too far from me, the convoy resets itself. But by consulting the map, I was able to come up with corners to cut while running parallel to the convoy, so that I can get ahead of it, and instead of trying to blow it up, I just used one drive-by to take the driver's side door off with my harpoon, and my next drive-by to take the driver off with my harpoon. And once I did that, I just blew up the driverless convoy truck and took the Talon for myself. To build the thunderpoon though, I need to get Jeet to help, and the only thing I have to do before I can get him to help is save good old Dinky D, who has been hiding terrified back in the goon cave ever since it exploded. So I grabbed the little mutt and put him in Chum's buggy to drive him back to Jeet. And that was kind of annoying because I had to pull out the good old punching the side of the car technique again to get it going. But after that was done, I managed to get back to Jeet with no further issues and built myself a lovely thunderpoon. And with that built, it is time to try to break through the jaw. Just trying to brute force my way through fighting all the Scrotus vehicles didn't work, so I got all the drivers out of their vehicles and beat them up somewhere where the snipers couldn't lay a bullet on me. And after they were all on the floor, I hopped back in the car and knocked down the jaw, allowing me to drive on through to Pink Eye's territory and continue the game. And Pink Eye needs some help because her little home is kind of under attack. It wasn't too bad. I managed to take out most of the vehicles driving around with my thunderpoon, and I got some shotgun shells for blowing up the catapults they're using to attack her tower from looting some people on foot around the catapults. So this entire outdoors section went a lot easier than I thought it would. Inside of Pink Eye's tower, I saw Stankgum, the guy who blew up the Masturbatorium. So I'm not a big fan of him, and he also has the third hottest character in the game with him. So I started beating up his friends to get closer to him and just put an end to all of his silly business. But he did end up managing to get away, but that doesn't really matter that much though, because Stankgum isn't a V8 engine. And now it is time to head to Gast Town and ask around about joining the Gast Town races. The Outcry is the man to talk to, and he'll let me join the races on one condition. I need to get him new lighties. His lighties are wearing out and he needs a replacement set. And to find that replacement, I just have to head over to the Underdune in the heart of Buzzard territory, go deeper than I have any reason going into their home, steal some lighties there, and get the hell out before they kill me. That doesn't sound too bad, so I started driving off into the desert to find the lighties. Once I got into the Underdune, something a bit problematic happened though. The game has decided that I want to be sneaky here, and that means I can't use my nitro boost. And if I can't use my nitro boost, that means I shall be returning to my roots and punching the side of my car to get it to turn. The worst of it was here. I had to get out of the car to lower a bridge, and when I returned, the car had changed direction and is now facing forwards. And this was just an awful little spot. It's a really tight area with ridged walls that make it incredibly difficult to turn without getting stuck on. This little situation here took me nearly 20 minutes to get out of. But once I was out of it, the rest of the drive to the lighties went off perfectly. When I grabbed them though, I got ambushed by a whole heap of buzzards, and they nearly got the best of me. But my fury mode kept me alive long enough for me to hop in the car and start driving out of here. And I drove all the way out of the Underdune nice and peacefully, because driving extremely slowly definitely just takes the intensity of this whole situation down a couple notches. Back at Gast Town, the Outcry is very happy with his new lighties and is going to let me join the races. Chum's not allowed though. He's just not good enough or cool enough or pretty enough. So I need to find someone else to sit in the back of my car and shoot at people. And I managed to find someone that didn't have anything better going on and asked her to help. She just wants me to clear her debt with Crowdazzle first. But let's just say I wasn't happy when I asked Crowdazzle to clear the debt. Not happy at all. To clear the debt, I need to win one of his races. And you know what? I hope he likes that. He doesn't deserve that top spot anymore. Not after this. The racing in reverse. How could he do this to me? It's a real betrayal. But before I can race, I need to build the Speed Demon Archangel first. And just like the Jack earlier, I had to collect the vehicle body, lower a threat level to unlock one part, and gather a very large amount of scrap. All in all, building the Speed Demon took me well over 2 hours, and I got up to all sorts of things while I was working on it. I flew a balloon, cleared out a bunch of camps while woefully underleveled for them, opened up some mother loot boxes in a storm, had another good old chat with my mate Griffer, and put an end to the dastardly top dog of Tyrant/Camp, Pig and Sticker. And once I had the Speed Demon, I got straight to racing. And this is not going to be easy. I'm honestly not even sure if it's possible. Like, I just can't come even close to keeping up with the other cars. And I can't upgrade my car because I have to use the Speed Demon. I can upgrade my thunderpoon to take out the competition though. And I can upgrade my nitro boost to get some extra speed. So instead of just spending ages attempting it with the car as is, I went out to get those upgrades. To get them, there's a lot I have to do. I've got to get the threat level down to 1 in Deep Fry's territory, 2 in Jeet's territory, and 3 in Pink Eye's territory. And I also have to get 2,700 scrap to actually buy the upgrades. It took me 3 hours. And the scrap was definitely the hardest part of it. That stuff just takes so long to gather up, but I got it all in the end. When I went to go try the race with my new upgrades, let's just say it didn't make much of a difference at all. I tried again and again and again to make this work, experimenting with different times to use my nitro boosts and different routes through the track. But I don't think it's even possible to finish the race before the timer runs out while driving in reverse, let alone finishing it before all the other cars do. I spent a long time trying, but unfortunately, it's just not possible. If someone watching comes up with a way to beat this in reverse, let me know, but I'm going to have to call this a failure. So you cannot beat Mad Max in reverse. But I want to find redemption, and I also want to finish the game. So after I finished doing this race, while going forward, unfortunately, I set my sights on the Gast Town races. I need to destroy the Big Chief vehicle driven by our old friend Stankgum to beat the race. And I was hoping I'd be able to go the wrong way on the track to catch back up to the car, but the game kills you if you do that. Then I tried just sitting and waiting for it to catch back up to me. But if you get too far behind the Big Chief, it stops moving. So to beat this, I'm going to need to stay very close to our prize, and I just don't have the ability to do that right now. Unlike with our previous race though, the upgrades I can give my car are completely unrestricted. So I will be getting the Magnum Opus as upgraded as it possibly can be. Maxed out engine, maxed out exhaust, maxed out wheels even. I want to give myself the best possible chance at beating this, because I want to snatch up some success and redemption, even though this run overall is a failure. I spent nearly 6 hours working on my car before going back to the races. It was a truly massive task. I need to get my hands on over 6,000 scrap, and I cleared out almost every camp in the game, as well as a big chunk of the scavenging locations while working on this. It just took an ungodly amount of time. Like, it's just a lot of scrap to just sit down and get. There were also side quests that I had to complete to unlock some of the upgrades I went for, like the maxed out thunderpoon and the tires I ended up using. Both of those made me do a side quest. Getting this car maxed out took a long time, but I'm ready to have a serious try at the Gast Town races now. So I stripped the armor off the car to stay as lightweight and speedy as possible and started attempting to beat the races. The strategy that I found that gives me the most success is to just not go in reverse at all. It's just way too slow, even with all my upgrades. So what I ended up having to do is propel myself forward using nothing but nitro boosts and holding on to that momentum for as long as possible and shooting the big chief with a thunderpoon whenever I get even the smallest window of opportunity. But a lot of the time, I get stopped at the very start by these little parasites blocking my way and making it so that I have to reset immediately. I also have to deal with the fact that this race starts on a completely flat surface, so building up enough momentum to follow Stankgum and his stupid little car any real distance is quite a challenge and usually uses up at least half of my boosts right at the beginning of the race. My best run yet was nearly an hour into my attempts. I managed to hit the big chief 3 times before it got away from me. And I'm pretty sure that it was nearly halfway through its health bar. But the thing is, after more than 100 attempts, that wasn't just my best run yet. That was my best run. I kept going for another couple hours after it, trying to get through this, but unfortunately, I'm pretty sure that it's either not possible or perhaps it requires such a perfect storm of things going right that it would take days or even weeks of nothing but attempting this to get it. And the fact that it just being impossible is a very likely possibility means that I have decided that redemption will not be found. And then on top of the Speed Demon race, I can also not complete the Gast Town races in reverse. But you're pretty deep in this video, and I'm pretty close to finishing the game. So, as much as it hurts to do, I beat the Gast Town race while going forward and continued on, hoping that at the very least this challenge isn't failed for a 3rd time by the end of the game. On the bright side, I get to fight in a Thunderdome in one of the coolest set pieces in the whole game. I had so much anger towards Tenderloin at this point for failing me to help me win that race that the fight was easy. I just had a lot of rage to channel, and it was a good outlet to vent that. Scrotus is here to give me my big chief prize. That's a bit of an issue because he still has that saw that I put in his head. So he's not really my biggest fan. So I guess I just have to run away. I did stop to fight him a couple times, but for the most part, I just ran my strange sideways run until I stopped running. Not because I got away or anything, but because I was basically dead after falling into a pit. Luckily, while I was having some deathbed visions of a man with a dog's head and cumbucket wearing a top hat making me marry good old number 3, it turns out that Hope had taken me to the local organic mechanic and got him to fill up all of my holes. That was nice of her, but I still need to get out of here and grab that big chief. And Hope tells me that it's over in the garage, which, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But to repay her for this information, after I have the big chief, I'm gonna need to go save her daughter, who got lost in Buzzard Country. And I mean, getting to the big chief was pretty easy. I kind of got very used to all the combat without pressing the W key while I was out getting the whole 6,000 scrap earlier, but when I got to the vehicle, it was a bit more annoying. It's big and it's easy to get stuck, and every time I get it stuck, I have to get myself back out of the garage, which can be quite tricky at times. It didn't take a huge amount of attempts, but all the attempts I made were long and painful. But the attempts I made were also long and painful enough that I was so happy when I eventually got to Deep Fry's temple and was able to install the V8 engine into the Magnum Opus and then go get Hope's kid back from the Buzzards, I guess. It was pretty easy, kind of a repeat of the Underdune section in a lot of ways, except this time Chumbucket abandoned me as soon as I entered. So I'll have to deal with that later. Getting Hope's kid out of here, it was pretty easy. I just had to go tugging on the ropes that the many children down here were tied to until I found her sitting in a tub. Then I grabbed her, did some fighting against a big buzzard boss and his friends, then got out of there in a buzzard car that shoots mines out, which was really weird because the mines come out of the back of the car. And that's the direction that I'm driving in. So whenever I used the mines while I was driving Glory back to Deep Fryer, I had to dodge my own mines, which was definitely some of the most interesting gameplay of this whole challenge. And now I have just one more thing I need to do before I can drive off into the Plains of Silence. I need to get my car back, so I went back to Cumbucket's little abode one final time to take it back from him. I wasn't the first to arrive though. Stank Gum is here, and apparently Scrotus was as well earlier. But he left to go kill number 3 and her kid, which isn't very nice. So after I've gone and gotten Stank Gum good and murderized in a copy-paste of the Tenderloin fight from the Thunderdome, I went back to Mr. Deep's temple again and found a dead woman and a child who looked an awful lot like Hope and Glory. So I guess I'm going to kill Scrotus before I head off to the Plains of Silence. I was feeling really hopeful when it came to dealing with the Scrotus convoy, because I was able to deal with the Dimrim convoy without too much trouble. But this time around, the game doesn't let me go backwards on the track, and I also can't cut through the middle of the track to catch up with Scrotus, because the middle of the track is just a giant ravine, which means, once again, we have a situation where I can't do this in reverse. So I turned my forward button back on and just got rid of the convoy normally. Failing the challenge, I was able to ram Scrotus's war rig off of a cliff without going forward, and I was also able to do the on foot part of the fight, throwing thunderpoons at Scrotus riding on top of my beloved black on black part without going forward. But there's really no salvaging this. All I have is the fact that after finishing off Scrotus, I can drive off, in reverse of course, to the Plains of Silence, where hopefully I'll be able to find the ability to forgive myself for my failure at this challenge. And that is how I discovered that you, unfortunately, cannot beat Mad Max in reverse. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. It really does mean a lot, and an extra special thanks to Insect Liquid for being a member on the channel. For $5 a month, you can have your name read out here, as well as some other perks. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Like it if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, and I'll see you in the next one.